Today, what we're gonna do is we're gonna end this encouragement series, a series that I've poured a lot into and matters a lot to me. Really like the tacky part of our faith, like how we engage with the world around us, how we engage with the people around us, and how we kind of live life. And if you asked me, like, how do we know that someone has a strong faith? How do you measure that? Like, what does it all look like? There's a bunch of things that you do and practice to become strong at anything. And the same thing is true with faith. And there's a bunch of practices that you should do and grow in and learn to become good at loving God and loving people. You need to come to church. You need to bathe in the scriptures. One of the things that if you were friends with me, and you may not have had this articulated for you, but you would learn if you spent some time with me, is that when I'm really saturated in the scriptures, like when I just, do my routine very regularly and I'm enjoying it and I'm kind of free in it, like I am different. When I have the scripture like kind of moving through me, I'm reading it, I'm listening to it, I'm letting it affect my life. It does something to me that's very, very different and very peace-filled. And so that's one of those practices that you need to do. And, taking your time to rest and giving and all the different things that we teach you to do to serve. But the purpose of any practice in the Christian life is so that I believe that you can become great at being like Christ, in the sense that you become a genuine lover of people, that your way with people, the way you love, the way you lay down your life, the way you live your life for people, that's where you can see. Now that's different. That's self-giving love. We become like Christ when we love well. We love people well. There's lots of passages throughout the Bible that kind of put that in perspective for us. One of my favorite ones is in 1 John, and it talks about how if we say that we love God, but we don't love people, we don't love God. And it actually says that if we say that we know God and we don't love people, we don't know God, because God is love. So, more songs than any ever been written have the theme of love, because everybody wants to figure out what it is, and everybody wants to take a piece and a part of it and somehow and move it into their life, and they want to experience it. And there's the romantic side, and there's, the parental side, and there's the friendship side, and there's all these different pieces and parts of love, and there's the way it feels, and there's the way it's hard, and the way we have to spend, and there's the disappointments, and there's the excitement, and there's all these pieces of love. But if you really want to know what love is, look at Jesus. That he is love. God is love. And so you can hit the target when you know that you're following Christ, when your way with people. And that's why encouragement is so important, because we live in a world that is so difficult. We need to encourage one another. And this is what we talked about. I'm gonna do a quick recap of this series. If you're new to the church or you're watching for the first time, at any point, you can jump back and watch other stuff. I'm gonna do the best I can to speed you up to where we are today, but please go back and re-engage these. They're all available on the internet somewhere, and so you can check them out. But week one, what we talked about is how everybody needs encouragement. We talked about what encouragement is. We talked about everybody needs it because life is an obstacle course. It's to promote someone else's growth. It's to give someone strength. And the whole reality of that is that everybody's running a gauntlet. Everybody has this really hard life, and the Bible supports that. It says that the world was full of sin and darkness and obstacles. Curse, in the Old Testament, the word curse means obstacle or hurdle. When you think about that, I'm just thinking about Monica. Monica's a hurdler. She's sitting right there. She hurdled she was a hurdle. You hurdled? That's not the right way. You don't say she hurdled. That's a wrong use of the verb add whatever thing. She hurdled. She ran track for Cincinnati and was a hurdler. That just sounds so weird. Sounds like a hurdler, like a curler. I don't even know. But you think about how difficult right now. I don't care if you train all the time or you haven't ever or whatever, but if you were gonna go out on a track over at New Albany High School or Gander or whatever and sprint around the track of 400 meters, if you did that, like any one of us, and I do CrossFit, it'd be hard for me to sprint as hard as I could. It would hurt me. It would hurt. I would pull my groin. Again, I pulled it before, I pull it again. Most of us would. Now imagine putting hurdles up. That's the life we're all living in your work, in your family, in your, whatever it is, your finances. There's just so many obstacles. It's like every time you turn around, there's another thing. And then that thing draws you into potentially acting a bad way. And it's just so hard. And so what it is that encouragement is something where God said the church is designed to give strength to people who are out there running the race, to give them, to promote their success. And as a Christ follower, you could look at the beginning of the year and you could say, what do I want to do to grow and get better? But I think that one of the profound realities of being a Christian is that we consider other people's needs. You actually consider it. What it means to consider it is to consider it. So consider this. Encourage one another. Take some time and go, what if I did that? People need it. I said I was going to go quick through this recap. That was week 1. Week 2 is how important it is to use your words. To use your words and to say specific things that understand that life is not pass, fail, but it's a scale in the sense that it's a journey of process and progression. You're scaling a mountain, all right? That's what life is. And so when we encourage people, we're strategic and specific. We're precise with our words and our language in a sense that what we communicate and really the intention behind it and the way that it fleshes out is we say to the people that we're encouraging some phrases and we imply the idea that I see you, you're going up the mountain, good job, you've gone from A to B. Now let's see let's get to I, let's get to these other places. Let's keep going. Encouragement doesn't look at someone and go, you made it or you didn't make it. You're there or you're not there. It's all or it's nothing. The encouragement goes, you can grow. You really can. And it notices you have grown. It looks at people and it sees a process, not perfection. It sees a process. And so our words reflect that. And that's a very nuanced, I would say relatively sophisticated thing because the impact, the emphasis of your voice and your tone on someone can say indirectly that you see the world through pass, fail, all or nothing, or progress. Your attitude towards people. I read several books on encouragement. And one of the things that Dr. Henry Cloud gets into about encouragement is the intentions of the heart and the communicator to the people that they're talking to. There's like a tenderness and a soft reality like, man, I see you and you did a good job and you're working and I see the life and the growth and the steps and the progress. And that's good, man. And you can keep going. You could improve. I'm living this. I have a 12-year-old plays basketball and he is training for basketball and he's doing extra work. And he's put in all this extra work outside of the travel team he's on. And I shared with our worship team this morning while we were prepping for all of you to be here that, he had a hard day yesterday. Like he has done all this work and 2 weeks ago he had his best couple games in a row. I mean, he scored in the double digits and he had like a triple double. I was like, what in the world? He's playing awesome. And it's like, look, you should be proud of yourself, man. You've really grown. And then yesterday, he just had a big old stinker. Just bad, just played bad, got pulled out of the game, all the stuff. And on the car, where he's just crying. I'm no good, I'm no this. No. You got to stop for a second. You've come so far. He wasn't even a major contributor on the team in terms of scoring points. And after all his 2 years of extra work, he's the second leading scorer on the team this year. And that's only because he decided, I want to work, I want to be a contributor. And I said, well, you got to work every day. You got to grow every day. You can be better tomorrow than you were today, and you keep going. Keep going, man. And then you'll just contribute. And every time you work hard, you're investing in your future. And that's the thing about an investment, is if you invest in your future and then you pull out and you gain, it's really no loss, because you gain something from the time you spent getting ready to take it out in the future. So now you have more. That's what hard work is, and that's what encouragement is. It understands, keep pushing, keep going, keep reaching. There's more here for you. You've done a great job. Keep going. Now listen to me. You all have to do this. You all have to do this. There's people in your house who stink at this. You need to start doing this. There's people in your house who are really good at this. You need to graciously try to create a culture of encouragement in your house. This is important. It's important to learn this. And then last week we talked about the context of encouragement. The context of encouragement, it's in friendship. It doesn't happen really if you just blast it on Twitter, and it doesn't happen if you yell across the parking lot. It doesn't necessarily happen in the one time a year you sit around the table with your family at Thanksgiving. It just doesn't really work that way. That's not really where exchange and sharpening happens, because sharpening has friction. And so the Bible talks about the way that, iron sharpens iron, another man sharpens another. There's an agreement upon the friction, and the friction happens in the friendship, real friendship, where there's encouragement and positivity, and that encouragement, it includes challenges, and it includes positivity, and it speaks things that, the Bible says, faithful are the wounds of a friend. And so the idea is that when your friend says something that's hard to you, the reason they're saying it to you is to make you stronger. And so in order to be good at encouragement, you have to get good at friendship. We have to be people should say of you, when you're a Christian, they should say, that's the best friend I ever had. They listen to me, they celebrate with me when I have successes, they mourn with me when I'm going through something really hard. If I need them, they show up. They like to spend time with me. We laugh the same. We're friends, we're real friends. And then in that context, those challenging things that really can be encouraging can get communicated, and your life can change. And so today I want to end with kind of the specific target that all of us as Christians should be encouraging in other people's lives. What is the thing that we go, yeah, you're on the right path? So, we've talked about all these different pieces, but what are we shooting for? What are we shooting for, and what are we encouraging people to keep working towards? I remember years ago, I was having a conversation with a mentor on the phone, and he said something about, I can't remember, it was a team member here who was doing something really good, and he noticed it. And he said to me, you need to pour fuel on that fire. He goes, just dump fuel all over that. What he was saying is, when someone does something that's right, or someone does something that's good, or there's a little spark of possibility and potential, as a leader, your job is to encourage that, right? Encourage that. Now, there's a phrase that we know, and not all of us use it all the time, but we say it in more of kind of a common setting when we're joking. If you have a friend who always gets in trouble with the waiter, like me, I talk too much to the waiter. So you might have people say if there's a new person to the party and then they think I'm funny, right? Oh, he's funny, he's talking to then the other people that know me will be like, don't encourage that. Don't put fuel on that fire. We don't want him to keep doing this. You think it's funny now, it gets really bad. Don't do this. And so in the sense of don't encourage that, I think it's important as Christians that we know what not to encourage, but more importantly, what to encourage. What is it that when you see it in someone's life and there's real goodness, there's potential, there's possibility, there's some spark, there's a fire, there's goodness, the direction is right. That's what you pour fuel on. Do that more. Whoa, you've gotten better at that. That's incredible. You're headed in the right direction. This is the way. Keep going the way. You're on the way. You got the way. That's it. You did it. I get it. That's it. Keep going there. This is what Christians have to have in a sense, crystallized in their mind a target, a goal, so that we can go, I'm encouraging that, don't encourage that, encourage that. What are you gonna pour the fuel of the fire on when we know they're going in a certain direction? There's a church father several hundred years ago, Irenaeus, and he said this: the glory of God is a human fully alive. The glory of God is a human fully alive. And so a quick reminder of the target. What is it that we are encouraging humans to be? What does being fully alive look like? And in so many words, throughout tons of years at this church, throughout different series, the human reality, when it is lived at its highest potential now, is to be transformed into the likeness of Christ, to do what Christ would do, to be becoming like him, to move in the direction that he wants you to move in. That as a human, you're becoming fully alive. And theologically, what that means is that if you look at the story of Scripture, there was a way God made humans in the beginning. Sin and death and the obstacles and stuff messed that up. And ever since then, the redemption plan through Abraham, through the nation of Israel, and through the life, death, and resurrection of Jesus has been to get people back to that fully human original state. And so to know the target, you have to look at that original moment, right? Like what was God's thing? And what do we know? We know that humans were created in the image of God. They were created in the likeness of God. We're supposed to bear God's image. We do bear God's image. And what that means is that humans were given the responsibility to take care of this world and each other, to work, to take this world, to steward it, to be responsible for it, to work every single day, to take care of this place, to move it down the road, to take the dirt, to take the trees, to take this place, to take animals, love them, whatever it is, use them, however it is, to make this world more. God created the world. Then he says, now he hands us the baton. He goes, continue the project. Continue moving it forward. You're my image bearer. Create things. Take chaotic things, unordered things, like the dirt and the jungle and the ocean and whatever, and move it into order the way God did with the waters at the beginning. It was chaos. He brought it into cosmos. Do that. Do that in the world with this raw material as well as in your relationships. Male and female, he made them to have families, to go and bear children, to have a family, to love one another well. So that's what it looks like. That's the target. So when you start to go like, what am I encouraging people to? It's like that. So you start to put some words on that, and I'm gonna break this down for you to give it to you like in a way you could potentially remember it. But in the context, I'm gonna say it this way. Here's the target. Here it is. It's to be controlled, to be quiet, and to be in Christian community. So everybody say that with me. Say controlled, quiet, and Christian community. So this is the message. You're with your friend. You have a real friend. You've learned life is an obstacle course. You have something to say. You see life as a process, and you're with your friend, and they're going through trouble. They have a problem. They don't know which way to go. They don't know whether to go to that school. They don't know whether to marry that person. They don't know whether to take that class. They don't know whether to quit that job. They don't know whether to do that party. Whatever it is, you as a Christian can take a basic litmus test, a grid that is this, and go, I want to pour the fuel on the fire of someone who is living in a self-controlled manner. I'll talk about that. Not living loud. I'll talk about it. They have a quiet, simple life where their priorities are organized and appropriate. And they are engaging with Christians who are not just calling themselves Christians, but Christians who are engaged in the process of becoming like Christ. One of the books that does the best job of outlining this whole target for the Christian life is the book of 1 Thessalonians. The Thessalonians were a group of people who heard the gospel from Paul, and they were starting to live it, but they got confused, and they believed that potentially the end was near. And they had all kinds of reasons for that. They believed the end was near. They thought that certain rulership represented the enemy or the Antichrist, And they kind of thought, well, Jesus is coming back right now. So they started to change the way they lived. And they threw off the things that Paul taught them to do. And so they stopped pleasing God. They just kind of, in ways, they just lost control. In ways, they started associating with the wrong people. And they started living lives that were kind of a mess. And so Paul reorganizes the target in 1st and 2nd Thessalonians to say to them what's really, really important. He opens this up just in a general, and then we'll look at these 3 things. But he says, as for matters, brothers and sisters, we instructed you how to live in order to please God. To please God. So that's what he's saying. That's the target. We told you how to please God. Now, let me remind you. He's about to remind you and go, don't you think being like Christ is pleasing to God? Don't you think like being transformed in the image of Christ, becoming like him, taking care of the world, loving people, like, don't you think that's what I taught you? I taught you how to please God. So let me remind you of the target. Let me remind you. And so then he, even in the book, talks about, I was like a father who encouraged you. He says those words, I was a father who encouraged you. Or like a mother who nursed you. So he encouraged them, and he's encouraging them again to do these things. So the first thing that he tells them to do is, like we had already mentioned, I'm gonna break down those first 3 things, is he talks to them about self-control. And he says this in 1 Thessalonians 4, 3-5. He says, it is God's will that you should be sanctified, that you should avoid sexual immorality. And then he says that each of you should learn to control your own body. You should learn to control your own body. And so he's talking about a particular issue where people were just being sexually promiscuous, sleeping with whoever and however, and with as many people as whoever, and kind of not seeing God's plan for sex as it's related to, marriage, husband and wife, and fidelity. But what he gets into beyond just the sexual impulses is just the general idea of having self-control. And so when you want to, encourage somebody, this is one of the things that you can know. I know that if you are moving down the pathway of taking your impulses, your natural desires that if they're not honed in and harnessed could move into a direction of destruction, you should, when you see someone starting to take control of their impulses, their desires, and using them outside of the way God designed them, but when you see someone doing it the way they should, that's what you control. That's what you pour fuel on the fire. That's what you encourage. So for example, when someone comes to you and they're like, I'm trying to get my life together. I'm getting my life together. I'm going to school, and I'm working hard, and I'm starting to go to the gym every day. All right? When someone says, I'm starting to go to the gym every day. As a friend, you go, good, that's good. You should do that. You should take care of your body. And not just take care of your body, you should take care that you do something for yourself that makes sure you have control of your impulses. Because if we all let ourselves go, then we're like we all have, who has a dog? Raise a dog. There's some dogs that just stay around. Most dogs don't stay around. If you don't train the dog and you don't harness the dog and you don't reinforce good conduct with the dog's gonna run away, and then it's gonna get hit by a car, and then the family's gonna be a wreck. No, that's what's gonna happen, right? Like my dogs have run away, and many times I'm like, oh boy, here we go. Roadkill for little Truly. Right? You're thinking it. That's what happens. So you train the dog because it has these impulses. Now, are the dog's impulses to run and play bad? No. In a certain context, they're great. That's the way the human life is about everything. God made you to have sexual desire. You're supposed to have that, and you're supposed to experience that in a certain way. But if you let your sexual desire or your impulse to always be the center of attention, or your impulse to just do whatever feels good all of the time, or whatever it is, whatever impulse you have, that if it's not controlled, it moves you into a pathway of destruction. So this is the general idea, and you have to be smart. You have to sit with people. When is the tail starting to wag the dog? When is someone being drawn away by something and they're out of control? You go, ooh, don't encourage that. when they start to move into a way of, I'm trying at work to be the last person to speak in a meeting. As a friend, you go, good, that's good, you should do that. That's really smart. Like it's smart for you to sit in a room and not say anything and not just necessarily go off of your impulses. I think it was Abraham Lincoln who said, it's better to remain quiet and be thought a fool than to open your mouth and remove all doubt. So it's like, yeah, that's good, man. You wanna talk, you wanna let it fly. Anytime someone says, I'm learning to just bite my tongue, like the person I was driving slow, they passed me, they gave me the bird, and I waved. That's good. You didn't flick the bird, that's good, you didn't do that. Keep doing that. Anytime self-control, anytime someone is in that space where they have taken into consideration their impulses that have the ability to implode, and you say, I'm gonna pour fuel on the fire of someone making decisions that have to do with control. Now, I've done a message on this before. In Galatians, Paul talks about the fruit of the Spirit. And you know this, right? Love, if you grew up in the church, maybe you don't know this, but he says there's this fruit of the Spirit. It's kind of the manifestation of God's impression in your life. He starts to work and then this fruit comes out. And it's love and joy, right? And peace and patience and kindness and gentleness and faithfulness. And then I think there's one more and I'm missing it. But the last one is self-control. And some people believe that placement of self-control in that list of fruit is not just one of the things that you have fruit in. It's actually the piece that helps you create the others. So it's love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, gentleness, faithfulness, and self-control. And in order to get love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, gentleness, and faithfulness, you have to play a role in controlling and bringing those things about. And so the Christian looks at their life and they go, love, joy, peace, patience. I'm moving towards that. Any type of impulse that moves me off of that, I'm not putting fuel on that fire. Anything that does, I'm gonna work hard to go about that. The Holy Spirit is not here to drive your car. He is next to you. You have the wheel. All right, Taylor Swift or whoever, Carrie Underwood, Jesus, take the wheel. He ain't taking the wheel. He's not. Well, I don't know how to do this. I'm not gonna live. I don't wanna just take it and take me somewhere. He's going, no, you gotta take the wheel. And if you listen to me, I'll tell you which way to go. So the process of becoming self-controlled is a joint effort between you working really hard and then the Spirit of God leading you, and then the church coming along and saying, you're going the right way. Keep going that way. Some of you are listening to this and you're like, boy, the inverse of that is reminding me of a bunch of stuff that I gotta stop doing because it's just impulse. I'm just being tossed by the waves. I got no moorings. I'm just flapping all over in the breeze. You need to run towards that. Run towards it. What is it? What is it that it just takes you away? You just have no control. Like if you go home and it's just like, I can't stop playing video games for like 7 hours. That's a problem. I'm not pouring fuel on that fire if you're my friend. If you're my friend, I'm not. You know what I'm gonna say to you? I'm gonna say you need to make sure you sleep more, even if you don't want to. I'm gonna say you need to eat healthy foods, all kinds of foods. You need to take care of your body. You need to exercise. You need to work hard. You need to invest in relationships that matter. And then after you've done all that, if you wanna play some video games, fine, that's fine. But not as a primary piece of your living diet in your life. No way, man. I'm not pouring fuel on that fire. I digress. The next one, he says this is profound. The people are starting to live uncontrolled lives. And he talks about how you have to live in love. And I'm gonna read this in 1 Thessalonians, this is 4, 9 through 12. He says, now about your love for one another, we do not need to write for you. For you yourselves have been taught by God to love each other. In fact, you do love all of God's family through Macedonia. So he's encouraging them. You've done a great job. And then he says, yet we urge you brothers and sisters, to do so more and more. Keep loving one another and make it, this is crazy. You want to talk about what the Christian life is supposed to be like, imprinted by, like what it means to be a Christian and what we should be encouraging everyone to do. Make it your ambition in life. Like if I asked you right now, what's your ambition in life? And you said, my ambition in life, and then you fill in the gap. If I came up to you, man on the street, what's your ambition in life? And you said, my ambition in life is to blank. Right? Imagine what you would put in that spot. Paul says, make it your ambition in life to lead a quiet life. A quiet life. I gotta tell you, I don't know if you know this, but I'm fairly boisterous. I like to talk with people, and I like to make noise, and I like to be loud, and I'm a 7 on the Enneagram if you've done any of that craziness. Like, I'm the life of the party, man. Like, I live off of enthusiasm. Like, I want to create a world where you don't have to feel any pain because I felt so much. Sorry, deep into my heart. You're like, geez, this guy, poor Joel. I'm fine. I've worked through it. That's why I can talk about it. I've worked through it. What's the goal of life? Quiet. Quiet. Here's what quiet is. And let me just riff on this for a moment. You love God. You love God. Like, what do you love? I know there's some people in here who love the Bengals. That's awesome. You love God. You're pursuing God. You're in pursuit. What do you do I love that movie, what is it? He's Just Not That Into You? You know that movie? You guys see that movie, He's Just Not That Into You? It's like the reality of like, if he likes you, he'll knock on the door. And everyone's like, yeah, it's true. If he likes you, he'll text you. And that's true. If he's not texting you, did he call you back? No. Unless he's playing some games, and then that's a whole other problem. But the reality is, if you like him, you knock on the door, you call him, you go over, you say hi. If you love God, you're pursuing God. It just is. So here's what you have to do. Are you pursuing God right now in your life? Are you like pursuing him? Scripture, church, podcasts that are teaching theology, serving, loving people, just Jesus. You know, God didn't say go and save people's souls. Jesus didn't say that. He said go make disciples. So are you following Jesus? He wants you to follow him. Just follow behind him. What is he doing? What would he do? How does he act? If you love God, that's the first part to living a quiet life. Because you know, when you love God and you're focused on that, there's nothing more important in the world for you to be focused on. And it's gonna take up your life, and you're probably not gonna make very many messes. And you might have to stand for something at some point, and you might even have to die for it. That's what all the disciples did. But the reality is in the world we live in now, you pursue God, things get quiet, things get kind of simplified. Love your family. You love your family. I mean, you just start to think about this. Okay, love your family. This is what we all say. Check. Check. I love my family. No, you don't. You're like, what are you saying? I don't love your family. Yeah, you don't love them. Because when you love your family, it's an active pursuit the same as it is for God. It's not just like a feeling. It's what you occupy your time with. It's your goal. It's like your strategy. And so some of you in here are like, I love my family and I'm spending my life. And I'm telling you, if you love your family and you love your wife, you love your husband, you love your kids, you're pursuing them, oh man, life just gets really vanilla to everybody else. Hey, you wanna go out? I can't. My kid has no, I can't. Hey, you wanna, and I'm not saying those going out's wrong. I'm just saying that when you occupy with, man, my life is full, not busy, full. I love God. I love my family. That's my schedule. Sounds kind of boring, doesn't it? It's not boring to God. Spending your time, energy, and resources on the people that God put close to you so that you can have in profound relationships is the best use of your time. And when you do that, things get quiet. Just think about when you don't do that. what happens? Things get loud. Things get loud. Bring another person into the picture. You're not focused at home. You don't do the right thing. You're not doing your homework. You're not taking care of things, whatever. Things get loud. And put it this way, it's not even just things get loud. It's someone close gets loud. You're not doing what you should be doing. Your husband's going to say something about it. You're not doing what you should be doing. Your kids are going to be exasperated. Things get loud when we don't love our families well. And then another one for a quiet life is to work nobly. One of the things that the Thessalonians were doing is they weren't working. They just stopped working. They thought that Jesus was coming back and they didn't need to work. And they were like, well, how many beans do we have? Enough till Jesus comes back? I say he'll be here in March. We're good. And Paul's like, no. You need to occupy your time. You need to take control of your bodies and don't let impulses drive you. You need to love your family. You need to go work every day really hard. And he says this stuff. It's really like wild. He basically gets into this and he says, if you don't work, you don't deserve to eat. And he says, if you don't take care of your families, you're like not considered part of God's family. It's just like, so some of us are wondering, some of us in the Christian community are just waiting for God to drop the blessing thing, like, just take care of us and I'm just gonna wait. And God's like, no, go to work. Go to work. That's actually what worship is in the Old Testament, work. Just work every day, do it for the glory of God. It needs to be worthy, it needs to be noble. Noble work. Bring about goodness in life in some way. But you know what happens when you stop working? Things get loud. Things get crazy. Bills aren't paid. Things get nuts. People get frustrated. You have a bunch of extra time on your hands. When you have a bunch of extra time on your hands do things they shouldn't do, and things get loud. So you wanna know what to pour fuel on the fire of? Man, when somebody's loving God, someone comes to you and says, I got my Bible. That's awesome. Someone comes to you and says, I'm listening to this podcast by this Christian guy. This is for parents out there. You grew up in the Catholic Church and your kid went over to the non-denom world and you're freaking out, but they're reading their Bible. You missed it. You missed it. If they're moving towards God, pour fuel on that fire. Pour fuel on it. Let them figure it out. Let them go, but don't withhold resources. Give them your words. Give them your encouragement. Love them. Work nobly. When someone gets a new job, when someone takes a pay cut, when someone does something that they love out of passion, you better be the first person to speak up. That's worth doing. That's worth doing, man. Do something that you love that makes a difference. Everything gets quiet. And it might get boring, but I wrote this as I was thinking about it. What the world calls boring is actually soaring. And what the world calls soaring is actually boring. It becomes boring. Just doing whatever you feel like, it feels good for a while, whatever you've heard these messages, impulses, just going with it, the feels, the stuff, whatever. It feels good for a while. God designed you to experience life that the things that feel good can feel good all the time in their appropriate amounts when you have them under control. So you're just wasting your life when you don't do things God's way. You're wasting your life. Last one, pour fuel on this. This one is profound. This is just this is a lot. And this will be convicting to us in here and to anybody that's listening. But the last one is the Christian community. And I put that in there, right? Control, quiet, and Christian community, because Paul does this really fascinating qualifier. He says, in the name of the Lord Jesus, this is in 2 Thessalonians 3:6 through 15. In the name of the Lord Jesus Christ, we command you, brothers and sisters, to keep away from every believer who is idle. Keep away from a believer who is idle. Later down in the passage, he says, do not associate with them. So, Your friends determine the quality and the direction of your life. Show me your friends, I'll show your future, right? Bad company corrupts good character, all that stuff, right? All that is so real, generally speaking, and Paul says it's so specifically important that as Christians, we should care so much about our friends, who they associate with, because who they associate with is the direction they're gonna move towards. And so, again, I'm not saying be a naysayer. I'm not saying don't encourage general movement towards God. I'm saying that when someone gets connected to somebody, like they're friends, like they're in it, they're like relating to one another. You don't want just someone who says, oh, I'm a Christian. I grew up in the church. When you're talking about getting married, oh my gosh. If you're like pursuing God and you like that guy and he's hot, but he is not, he's a Christian, so he like goes to church with you, maybe a great friend, maybe a great thing. I would tell you this out of caution. He says, don't associate with idle believers. You should connect with people who are passionately, actively pursuing their relationship and their faith. And if someone says, I'm just a Christian, then that shouldn't be good enough in terms of when you're looking at a friend to connect with someone, pour fuel on that fire. When someone's like, I love this person, and I get to know them, and you know, I hear what they're about, and they're like, yeah, they go to church. I don't know, maybe they will. They're starting to. Red flag. Red flag. That's just a red flag. You got these new friends. Do they care? No. Red flag. Now, I'm not necessarily gonna just like blow them out of the water with some anticipatory scowl. What I'm going to do is when they move towards people who are actively pursuing God, I'm pouring fuel on that fire. I'm not encouraging people connecting with people who aren't headed towards the same thing. And that's what this is, right? This is where we get good. We know the target. We know it. Controlled, quiet, Christian community. Someone's gonna be right here, and you gotta go, no, I'm not pouring fuel on that fire. Some people are way over here. Don't encourage that. Dude, you do you. Be you, do what feels good. That's not a friend. That's not a friend. A person that sees you headed down the path of destruction and gives you encouragement for that, that's not a friend. That's a person who some way, like, they get something out of your exploits. It's funky and unhealthy, and you should run from it. But man, when we see people, I'm like moving towards God. I'm like, I want to know God more. I'm just trying to do the best things and love my family. Can I tell you, like, I'm getting ready to do this series. Put it up. You can put it up now. I'm getting ready to do another series. I've decided that this year, for the first half of the year, I'm going to talk to everybody at the church about the things I talk to everybody one-on-one or one-on-two in my office about the most. So I'm doing a series on marriage. I'm doing a series on parenting. I'm doing a series on getting counseling. Yeah, that's what we're doing. You know what I sit with people in this counseling and marriage and stuff? I mean, it's just constant, right? It's just, you sit with a young couple and they say something like, I'm just hoping he comes around. I'm hoping she comes around. And I'm like, oh, do you know what it means to be unequally yoked? Like, you don't want to tie your boat to someone who's going the wrong way. Like, don't do that. Don't encourage that. Like, it's just, this is the stuff, man. But when people are moving that way, it's our job to notice it, encourage it, use our words, pour fuel on the fire. And when you really develop great friendships and you really love one another, then when a friend doesn't encourage you, you know something's wrong. Wonder why they don't, what am I missing? There's so much here. So I thought that song that we sang that was the new song today, I thought that was an amazing song. I think that's an amazing song. I think there's something about it that just gently and intentionally draws you in. So I want you guys to stand, and I'm gonna bring the band out, and we're gonna sing that song one more time. together before I'm done. And I know I went 10 minutes over today. And you know what? That's okay. Sometimes you need to encourage me to pour fuel on that, to do that, to go a little longer. Because I can't, I can't tell you all this stuff in 37 minutes. And sometimes I need to shut up, that's for sure. But let's take a minute and pray, and then we're gonna sing this song together. Father, I thank you again that your disposition towards your children is absolutely perfect, like you encourage us towards the right things in the right way. And I pray, God, that we would be like you. We would see and know and encourage people down the right path, that we would have the target, we would know what to pour fuel onto. We would use our words and our friendships and our relationships to move people towards you and the target for the glory of God, to be fully alive, to be the humans you designed us to be. So we're gonna sing this song again to you, and we pray that you would meet us in this moment.
Hey everybody, thank you so much for joining us today. We're really glad that you did. If you're new or this is your first time watching, we wanna hear from you. We wanna connect with you and see what you're going through and how we can pray for you. So if that's the case, text the number on your screen, text hi, and we'll reach out to you. We'll see you guys soon.